Probably we all have a favorite teacher from our days in school. I had two favorite teachers when I was in high school. One was my senior year teacher in English, and the other was a teacher that taught trigonometry, also my senior year. And both individuals had a wonderful command of what they taught, and both obviously loved teaching. I did well in English, but I had a difficult time in math and trigonometry, particularly, until I put it to use. When I was young, my father had horses, and he stored hay for them on the second floor of the barn that we had. And one time I put to use what I had learned in trigonometry to measure the space we had to store the hay that was needed for the winter. And my father was quite impressed. And actually, I was quite surprised that it all kind of figured out accurately. We can tell, I think, from the gospel that Jesus was an excellent teacher. He used stories, metaphors, parables, we call them, that the people of his time, and even the people of our time, 2,000 years later, still understand and still can apply to their own lives. In today's gospel, Jesus takes a common illustration used by the rabbis of his time to expose the judgmental spirit that is so evident, really, in all of us. He says, "Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, 'Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye,' when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye?" In principle, I think it's so very, very true what Jesus was teaching his disciples in a very special way, and the people that were following them. That reform has to begin with one's own self, with one's own character. And here Jesus' words, they don't have the purpose of moral reform to enable any sort of a proper assessment of the failings of others, but rather they serve to expose our own need to reform our lives. And how can we properly do that? How can we properly assess the failings of others when we ourselves fall far short in so many ways? To love as Jesus commands in the gospel, I think to love authentically, we first have to take a good look at ourselves and be honest with ourselves. We cannot help someone else to love God and to love neighbor unless we examine ourselves and acknowledge our own failures first in that area.